Good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
I'm Travis Monk. I'm the chair. I thank you for your continued interest in your application for serving as circuit court judge and for making the trip today.
Well, thank you for having me. One of these days, maybe guys by first name alphabetically. But I've been asking for that since kindergarten. So.
I don't think we'll do that, but
good suggestion. So, you know.
Thanks for the idea. You could give us an update if you have one. The last time we spoke to you was in March, maybe?
Sure. I think even before that, I think I talked to you guys in January because I chose to rely on my January interview for Judge Clayton's spot that came open later. Since that time, I've continued to work in my role to serve the people of Volusia County under the administration of R.J. Larissa. Continue to try cases, continue to also take advantage of some teaching opportunities, add them with the Florida Prosecuting Attorneys Association. I actually have had a renewed interest in teaching, and it's something I'm looking forward to be doing quite a bit more. I have a seminar coming up in February that actually teaches attorneys how to teach and how better to teach other attorneys. In terms of my trials, I've had 4 trials since I saw you guys last. One of them was a 1991 case where I was able to secure my first death sentence as a prosecutor, which is something I had not done through my first couple of death penalty trials. So that was something that was unique to me and was a challenge I was looking forward to taking. Also a 1991 case, so always working on old cases is a huge challenge. And of course, I've been through the process of being put up to the governor's office twice by this committee, which I am grateful and hoping for a third opportunity. And that's, that was an interesting process. Preparing for the interview with the governor's office was a very interesting process. Actually doing the interview was interesting, and being an attorney now for 15 years, of course, I've had some setbacks, had some losses as an attorney, and there were other great candidates that were put up both times, but I think you always hope and believe that you will be the candidate that's selected by the governor's office. And I was certainly disappointed and humbled by not being selected, but he chose great candidates to fill the judicial vacancies. But that's been a challenge for me as well over the last 9 months, dealing with kind of a setback and a disappointment. But it's hardened my resolve to go through this process again with y'all and hopefully get interviewed by the governor again and continue on a path to hopefully achieve my goal of joining the judiciary and continuing to serve the people of Volusia County.
So you interviewed back in January?
Yeah, it was in January or February that I went up. Are you talking with the governor's office?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think it was in February when I went up.
What do you think you'll do this time to try to get over the hump? Because you may not get an interview at the governor's office in person.
I am aware of that. I really hope they do. I mean, as challenging as it was, so the governor employs some very, very smart attorneys that ask some very hard-hitting and detailed questions about Supreme Court case law and opinions and dissents. I think I will prepare the same way I did before in terms of actual studying the materials I go through, what I focus on, but maybe looking at the materials that they ask questions about more in terms of how they interact with one another. And obviously there's been additional Supreme Court decisions. I'll have to refresh myself on all that information, but I think I've had better insight having been through the interview process one time. I really hope they interview me again. I want another shot to go up there.
Talk to us about your experience outside of the criminal realm.
In terms of my career, I mean, I did work in civil briefly for 6 months doing insurance defense in Orlando. It was an eye-opening experience. Unfortunately, I wasn't in the courtroom a lot or really doing any type of work other than being in my office and doing a lot of billing. So I got back into the courtroom. So I do have that perspective doing civil. I did work as a law clerk for the Honorable William Palmer for 18 months right out of law school. It was a great opportunity. I wouldn't trade that for anything, and being given the opportunity to approach cases from a truly neutral standpoint, and doing 2 years in criminal defense as an assistant public defender. I think, I know Mr. Reed can attest to it, having been a prosecutor and a public defender. It's very, very different. It's made me a better prosecutor, but it also made me be a bit more creative, because there were certainly cases where the state, they had our guy, but you have to get creative in your defense and still challenge the evidence and challenge the witnesses and do it in a professional way to try to get the best outcome for your client, state to their burden.
What do you think are the top 3 most important qualities of a circuit court judge?
I think impartiality, of course, which is in the Judicial Code of Conduct. Impartiality is one of the most important things, and it's a word that's said over and over again. The independence of the judiciary. need to be independent from all other branches of government and maintain that independence, because that's how the public has trust in the judiciary, is in their independence. And I think diligence is very important too. In today's day and age, the case numbers are high. There's a lot of turnover in cases, and to diligently address matters both in civil and in criminal, because you don't want cases to get old. You don't want issues to become stale. I know, having been a prosecutor and a defense attorney, the worst thing is waiting for a decision from a court. So diligence, impartiality, and independence from the judiciary.
If you were to get appointed and assigned to a family division, what would you do to get up to speed?
I did take family law in law school many years ago, but I would brush up on that part of the Florida statutes in terms of family law, and I'd go to my fellow judges. I'd go to other judges who have practiced in that area and practiced in that area for a great deal of time, and probably bug them to the point that they would get sick of me coming to ask them questions about that area of law.
Anybody have any questions?
If you don't get an interview, what's your ultimate strategy to get what you want to the forefront of the people you spoke to last? How you gonna manage that?
Do you mean if I was put up but they chose not to interview me again in Tallahassee?
Yeah, if that happens, and you're trying to get a new message to them, or yeah, but what's your strategy to accomplish it, other than being told, well, I guess they don't have an interview? You gotta do something.
Well, I hope certainly they look at the additional things I've done over the last 6 months, continued my cases, secured a death sentence which I hadn't done yet, and also took part in continuing to teach and furthering the legal field in that capacity. But always talking to people, and I think it doesn't hurt to talk to people who have connections with the governor's office or know people in Tallahassee and get my name out there. I think that would be the only other thing I could do, other than hoping that they do look at my resume. And you know, I said this when I walked out of the governor's office that day, that if you think you really did great in your interview with the governor's office, you probably didn't do very well. And even if you think you did terrible, you may have done much better than you thought. And I think I was in the middle. I think my answers were, I think I showed my knowledge of the law that they wanted to see. And I don't think I had a bad interview. And I hope they would go back and look at it again and see that I did well, you know, maybe not exceptionally, but did well in that interview and reconsider. And I know there's other great applicants. I know some of the same applicants are up again. Ms. Thomas, who was just here, Judge Miller, very highly qualified individual. So it's going to be a challenge to overcome other qualified people, certainly, as it was before.
Are you set on circuit court? Or interested in a county court seat?
My resolve is for both, one or the other. I do think I have unique skills that can help the judiciary in the Seventh Circuit, mainly being the amount of trials I've done, the amount of experience I have in the courtroom, and I think we need judges who have a lot of trial experience. Obviously, there's other traits other individuals bring, but that would be the one that I'd have. So, yes, I would have some interest in county as well.
In closing, if there's anything you want to say?
I want to let you guys go to lunch since I'm last. More that's what I'm really happy you guys did. Go get lunch in St. Augustine.
If you don't get appointed, you're going first next time. As an A kid, I take offense to this. I always hated it when they switched the lines.
Well, sometimes I'm almost always last, but this time
you may do reverse alphabetical order.
Okay, very good. No, I have nothing else to add, and unless you guys have more questions for me, I'm glad you guys brought me up here today.
Yes, sir. Thanks, buddy.
All right,
Coming up.
Thank you all. Have a good afternoon and a good lunch.
Thank you. All right, that concludes our interview.